It's been the biggest question so far this offseason, ladies and gentlemen. Where in the hell is Myles Garrett going to be traded to? And obviously, as Buffalo Bills fans, we are hoping, praying that Brandon Beane can go out there and conduct a little bit more magic and bring that game-changing edge rusher to the Buffalo Bills. Well, on today's episode, folks, we are going to not only be looking at what he would be owed if traded to the Buffalo Bills, a future contract, what that would look like, and how much draft capital it would truly cost for us to bring Myles Garrett over to this team. Now, one thing I do want to say, I want to rip the Band-Aid off, folks. I want you to take away that mindset of, oh my God, we need to hoard our picks, especially our early round picks. I really don't have a trade comp that would scare me away from adding a Myles Garrett to this team. We are talking quite literally, bar none, the best edge rusher in all of football. I have him above TJ Watt. I have him above Max Crosby. I have him above Trey Hendrickson. And the fact that he said that he would like to join a contender because his number one reason behind leaving the Cleveland Browns is that he wants to know that he could be playing on the biggest stages. And when you look at the Buffalo Bills' current cap situation, which is certainly a hell of a lot better than 2024, and you look at where this team was able to bring this overall final journey to the AFC Championship in 2024, where it was supposed to be a rebuild year, I think it's pretty clear at this point. The Buffalo Bills are indeed a contender to bring in this edge rusher. Shout out to everybody that's come into the channel, folks. My name is Dan Mitchell. In case you are new here, do me a favor, smash that like button and certainly consider subscribing. I put out NFL content twice a day, Monday through Friday, one time at 11 a.m. EST and one time at 5:15 p.m. EST. This show is powered by BetUS, folks, and I'll tell you what, it is fantastic, particularly because BetUS already has all of the where are specific free agents or trade targets going to be moved. We have Deebo Samuel's next team, if not the 49ers. Myles Garrett's next team. Look at that. And the Buffalo Bills are at plus 900 where it stands right now. And same thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback for game 1 of 2025 and 2026, along with, folks, all of the lines for next year in 2025. So do me a favor and certainly going ahead and check out BetUS. Show them a little bit of love. They're matching 150% of your first deposit all the way up to $2,000. And they are also matching your second and your third deposit up to 125%, up to the exact same figure. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this channel. Shout out to everybody in the chat, folks. If you are watching the replay of this, guys, I want to remind everybody that this is typically conducted live. So if you are subscribed, I certainly appreciate you coming in and showing some love. But if you would like to be a part of my live audience, make sure you go on ahead and you turn on those bell notifications so you can engage with all of the homies in the chat. Live chat, I'm going to need you to roll call right now and tell me exactly where you are tuning in from. Shout out. Let us know what team you're representing. Roll call time in the chat. I want to see how far this audience truly extends. As John Mitchell came in with a question, Buffalo Bills need to beef up the defense if they ever want to beat the Chiefs and go to the Super Bowl. Any team, Buffalo Bills players have been getting overpowered and dominated. I would have to agree with you, my friend. I can guarantee you that that is on the top of Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills necessity list going into the offseason. I certainly appreciate that. Hit that like button is cool. Ducky suggested. Let's take a look where some of these guys are at. We have a Go Bills from Cliff A. He is located in Buffalo, New York. Folks, do me a favor, roll call in the chat. Let us know where you are tuning in from, what team you are representing. Let us know where we are at. Bills Mafia from the Bronx. What is going on, my friend? Hope all is well. It's a great conversation today. We're going to be unpacking what Myles Garrett looks like as far as a future contract, as far as the trade capital, and what it would mean to add him to the Buffalo Bills. I'm really excited to dive into this here in just a moment. Kansas City, representing the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Debates. I highly appreciate you coming on in, man. Sorry for your loss, but I don't feel too bad for you, because you have witnessed 3 rings. London, England, Buffalo Bills. Come on, baby. Talk to it. Long Island, California, and Buffalo. My guy Cliff A, dude, he's up in here. Go Bills from Jacksonville. Bills Glazer is in the chat. We have to love that. I want Ohio State receiver. Okay, Josh is just ready to go into business immediately. Sarasota, Florida, Jay Osgood. Buffalo, baby. I love you, Dan. LFG, I love you too, man. Watching from Orlando, Florida. Soul Train, I hope everybody is doing well. Now, out of the 136 of you watching me right now, folks, really need you to smash that like button for me. Easiest way to support what I am doing over here. I think there's no reason why we can't be over 100 like buttons by the time this live show is ready. Dirty Myrtle represent. Corey, my guy. Hope all is well, man. Hope things are doing well down at Myrtle Beach. Burlington, Ontario. Bills Mafia, El Paso, Texas. And go Bills from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Joshua Bass. I appreciate that. But, guys, it's the question of the century. Because when we ultimately end up hearing a name like Myles Garrett, a lot of us are going to say, oh my God, Dan, that is wildly expensive. There is no way that the Buffalo Bills could afford a player like this, especially with his contract. Well, say, for example, this is your first time really diving into the complexities of NFL contracts. I'm going to make you feel a hell of a lot better of how much this would cost. And that is even assuming that the Buffalo Bills do not restructure him in any sort of way or give him an entire new deal. So as you can see, Myles Garrett had an absolute crazy extension a couple of years back. And when you're looking at these overall contracts, this is what I want you to take a look at, right? Base salary in 2025 and 2026, Myles Garrett's base salary is going to be about $1.2 and $1.3 million. Now, say, for example, that we were to take a look at Myles Garrett's overall contract here, you would notice that he had a massive signing bonus, which is automatically paid to Myles Garrett, right? So you just go on ahead and you just add all of that up. That was immediately sent over to Myles Garrett the second he inked that deal with the Cleveland Browns, right? And for accounting purposes, they just split that equally for the NFL to balance their books, if you will. It's a lot of what the NFL does at that point. However, as we take a deeper dive, I also want to take a look at some of this, right? This is the number I want all of us to take a look at, and that is an option promotion or a proration, excuse me. This right here basically is what he would get paid if, for example, he made the roster, which is obviously, it's going to happen. But what these two numbers suggest is that both of these numbers are not guaranteed. The only cent that Myles Garrett is technically owed, regardless, is a $1.2 and $1.3 million base salary. And then these option bonuses are basically just paid out to him based off of certain things that he needs to meet, certain criteria, which could be something as simple as making sure you start like each and every single game, or you made the 53-man roster. I think it's pretty clear, and I think it's pretty much a good bet to say that Myles Garrett would make this roster. But what this gives the Buffalo Bills is a lot of options of being able to move this guy over, right? So if Brandon Beane were to make the move, I can guarantee you that we would not just roll with this contract, because while the Buffalo Bills are in a much better financial position than we were in 2024, it's still pretty bleak, right? And there's some things that we can obviously do to make some more money for ourselves, whether or not that is walking away from Von Miller. Maybe, for example, he retires, restructuring certain players, giving Josh Allen a massive contract extension, which would help us out in the short term. But with all of that being said, I think the Buffalo Bills would give Myles Garrett a brand new contract at the end of the day. So now we're asking, how much is this guy going to be worth? Quite frankly, I would go on ahead and I would give him whatever the hell he wants. Blank check, baby. But I think a good way to start is looking at Spot Track's overall market value of the edge rusher. He is 29 years old. He will be 30 in December at the conclusion of the 2025 season. All right. He has been a multiple first-team All-Pro throughout his entire career, 14 sacks last year, a true game wrecker. Now, some of us are going to look at age, and that's something I always like pointing out, is age certainly matters, in my opinion, when it comes into skill position players on the offensive side of the football. if I'm seeing a 29-year-old wide receiver, or better yet, if I am seeing a 29-year-old running back, I am 110% shying away. And I'm like, okay, I'm rolling the dice here, right? But a 29-year-old edge rusher is largely when they start to enter their prime. I think a prime for an edge rusher is typically around 27 years old to about 30, 31. With that being said, don't worry about his production because he's not the exact same sort of edge rusher as Von Miller. That's also something I always get. Dan, do we really want Brandon Beane to roll the dice again on an aging edge rusher? We've seen this movie before. I don't think that should hold us back because, number one, Vaughn and Myles Garrett are two different sorts of edge rushers. One in particular, Vaughn is more of a finesse guy. He is successful because of his burst off of the line, which in turn is going to make it more likely for him to suffer an injury like he did a couple of years ago with an ACL. The reason why Myles Garrett succeeds is just based off of that he's throwing grown men around like rag dolls. Nobody matches up with him just based off of his power. He wins with his power off of the edge and his speed, not particularly his burst, which is a hell of a lot tougher on an edge rusher's knees. That's why when we look back and we say, hey, why the hell was Bruce Smith so successful in his career, late into his career? It was because he played the edge rushing position very similar to what Myles Garrett does. So don't be afraid and don't look at the Von Miller situation and Myles Garrett situation as the exact same way, because that's not particularly what it's looking like. However, here we are. This is what a contract for Myles Garrett would look like. $34.3 million average annual salary, 4 years, $137 million on average. Now, this is just an estimation. This is just spot track. For all we know, Myles Garrett's agent could go out there and ask for an absurd amount of funds almost immediately. But what I want to show each and every single one of you is how we ultimately end up getting this done. When you look at his contract and you see, go ahead and pull up this contract real fast for you. I'm going to go ahead and go back. Okay. So you go back and see how the Cleveland Browns ended up structuring out this entire mess, right? Basically giving him bonuses and or a signing bonus, which is basically distributed based off of signing bonus, which could be paid to him almost immediately, and then option bonuses, which aren't necessarily guaranteed. What I would like the Buffalo Bills to do is when we structure a deal with him, we end up giving him a 4-year deal. We'd get him till about he was 33 years old. And how we do it, and I know this is probably not going to be the best for everybody, but how many more times are we wanting to go on ahead and trade for a middle-of-the-road edge rusher and expect Myles Garrett sort of production? How many more times are we going to roll the dice on an edge rusher in the first or the second round and expect Myles Garrett production from the very beginning? Myles Garrett's production is what we need. And the only way that we can guarantee a Myles Garrett production for the Buffalo Bills is if we bring in Myles Garrett. That is the only 100% way that we could guarantee that. So the contract I want is that I want a base salary around right here for the first 2 years that could easily be restructured. Hell, maybe even add a couple of void years. And then when we ultimately end up looking his market value, say that it is $130 million, we make the majority of that a $50 million signing bonus spread across equally throughout the cap as we continue to get better and better and in a better sort of situation. So it can be done financially. It's just the way that you finesse the contract, backload the situation, give him a $50 million signing bonus, $75 million, which does not go against the cap immediately in 2024, only within a specific way of splitting it out evenly for the length of said contract, and you send it over from there. Now, next, it comes into what are we sending over to the Cleveland Browns? What are we going to, right? And there's really only like two ways to look at this, right? Number one, so Myles Garrett has a no trade clause, which helps the Bills significantly because he has stated specifically what he is looking for. He is looking for a contender, and that really just seems to be the one thing. He even was interviewed and said that he would be willing to go on ahead and take something around market value so that he can help a team, because obviously his number one priority is being a part of a team that could potentially get to the Super Bowl, right? So I think the Bills are in a really good position. I really do. So a lot of people who I think play a lot of Madden, okay? Like I've been getting quite a bit of DMs being like, "Oh, Dan, like this dude's gonna like cost like 4 first-round picks and Greg Rousseau," right? I do not believe that's going to be the case. I do not. What you need to do is look at the Mac Hollins trade, excuse me, not Mac Hollins, Khalil Mack trade that happened in 2018 when he was traded over from the Las Vegas Raiders right over to the Chicago Bears. Very similar instance. He was about 26, 27 years old at that point. He was well into his prime. He was gone for 2 firsts and a third. Okay. I genuinely believe this is what I'm thinking. It's going to be 2 first round picks, one in 2025, one in 2026, and it's going to be one of our second round picks in 2025. Maybe like Cleveland is just so desperate to get him out that they could go on ahead and accept a second round pick in 2026 or later down the road. But I don't think that's what it's going to look like. Specifically, it's going to be more of the 2 first rounds, which I'll be completely honest with you. So we have the 30th overall pick. And I'll be honest with you guys, most of the talent based off of our necessities are largely gone between 1 through 20. And as far as finding value within the draft based off of the positional groups that we are looking for, I'd be completely fine walking away from the 30th because there are several interior defensive tackles. There are several free safeties. There are several wide receivers that I have been really eyeing in this draft class that aren't even in that area from what most mock drafts are putting out. So, for lack of a better term, fuck that first round pick and F the exact same one in 2026. I love Brandon Beane, but I'm having a hard time trying to point out outside of Josh Allen a absolute game wrecker of a draft pick that we have had in the first round. Like a game wrecker. Like I'm talking like an all pro, like crazy sort of performance. First round sort of pick. All of our talent comes from those mid rounds. So a first this year, a second this year, and a first next year, sign me up. Sign me up. 0 questions asked. But the question now becomes, is that something you are willing to walk away from? Let's see what the chat has to say. John Marlowe, get Garrett, get Edge or DT Monster in the draft. Get Rousseau, play in and out to generate pressure, get linebacker, cornerback, and a safety. Don't worry, man. We're going to be looking at a lot of prospects in the draft and maybe even some bargain bin free agents because if we do pull off a Myles Garrett like trade, folks, we're going to have to resort to bargain bin free agents. All right? And then we're also going to have to really make sure that we draft as good as humanly possible. We have Dominus is coming in saying BB's track record with drafting in the late 20s and early 30s is garbage. Anyway, like I said, he's an absolute stud when it comes into the 2nd through the 7th round, 3rd through the 7th round. I'm not so much concerned about us losing out on the 30th overall pick, right? I love some edge rushers. I love some defensive tackles, but you are guaranteeing a certain amount of production. Of course, an injury is always a scare. It always will be a scare, but I really like what we could potentially be putting out there. 185 of you are in here right now, folks. Please do me a favor, smash that like button. We are talking all things Myles Garrett here, and have no fear. I'm planning on doing quite a few of these streams for all of the players that I have heard for the past couple of weeks. I think tomorrow we're going to unpack Max Crosby, what that would look like. Trey Hendrickson, what would that look like? And then a bunch of other pending free agents to see if that's something the Buffalo Bills would like to take a look at. It's off season, baby. 185 of you are already in here. I love each and every single one of you, including all of the fans that aren't even Bills fans, baby. Look at that. Nobody will get Garrett without offering first-round picks. We established that, my friend. We established that. 2 first rounds. 2 first rounds and a second is likely what it's going to cost. They will have to replace Daquan Jones too. We will, and we need a 1 tech. And there are a couple of guys in the interior that I really, really like. One of which is out of Kentucky, massive human being. It's Dion something Baker, I want to say. And then also Walter Nolan, who I think might be around like that 30 mark. but I'm fine with waiting in the draft in the second or the third round if that means that we get Myles Garrett. Because again, as I say this every single offseason, as much as you can love a prospect, it's all a gamble, folks. It is all a gamble, regardless if it is the first overall pick or it is Mr. Irrelevant. It is all a gamble. Certainly, it helps when you have good scouting, but really, at the end of the day, there are busts and there are gems all across the draft. If you can actually bring in solidified for sure production immediately, that's what needs to happen. Dan, have you seen that James Cook and Derwin James were bonding at the Pro Bowl? I certainly have, but I wouldn't look anything into it because James Cook has zero say in any sort of personnel things when it comes into it. Now, send Garrett to the NFC. We have had enough of him. Oh, man, listen, I totally feel that way about several players. But let's see. Daquan was a disappointment in 2024. So when it comes into like one text, man, which is really his overall like responsibility, you don't see sexy stats from a one tech typically. He just needs to like draw like one, so the double teams and just be that big body. He had an off year, but like never expect your one tech to like be so the leader in sacks, right? But like you need someone that stops the run incredibly, and that's where he struggled. So I agree that an interior defensive lineman opposite of Ed Oliver would make sense. A true one tech, a big bodied dude right in the middle. So we're going to be looking for it here. I love the Bills, but I just don't have faith that the Bills will make a game-changing ball move like going to get Myles Garrett. I just don't see it. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. Well, Robert, here's the deal. I feel like we all have short memories, right? And that's completely fine, right? It's not about what you have done for me. It is about what you have done for me lately. I like actually have the same mentality. And sometimes I need to remind myself of exactly what this team has done, right? Like we ultimately ended up making that trade for Stephon Diggs for with Allen's third year in the NFL, which was huge to his development, and it put us into consistent playoff contenders, which I think we're all thankful for. Then we ultimately ended up trading for Von Miller. And again, I think we all have recency bias here, but let's not pretend that Von Miller was absolutely lights out prior to him getting injured the first time. It sucks that he ended up hurting his ACL, but that's a gamble, right? Like that is a gamble for any player that you put on your starting 53-man roster. I don't care how much of a star you are. That's something that you need to roll the dice on. It happens. So the intentions were certainly there for Brandon Beane twice, right? So I wouldn't go on ahead and I would not. So I wouldn't count him out. I genuinely believe that Brandon Beane is serious about this entire thing. And I can't wait to show you guys. I still think the only way this works for Bean is to find some low draft picks, round 5 to 6, to replace the high round picks. Bean has said it's all a lottery, and the more spins you get, the better chance. For sure. For sure. And you know what? I have a full draft board that I'm super excited to start going through once free agency is over with you guys. There is a deep class when it comes into defensive tackle, an edge rusher, safety's pretty deep too, I would have to say, as far as what the Buffalo Bills are looking for. So we're going to be right back where we were last year. Hopefully we make enough moves where we can actually get past the AFC Championship, right? Let me see. Alan, Dan, and so our entire draft picks need to be on the defensive side of the ball. As for Garrett, I would give them whatever they're asking for, bro. Me too, my friend. Alan, I would throw in my left kidney for Myles Garrett as well. If they want that or my unborn first son, I'd probably put that into consideration as well. But that's kind of where we're at. Draft certainly, but then I'll also raise to you that I think we do need a true speedster on the outside for the wide receiver position. Right in an ideal world for the Buffalo Bills, my dream offseason is number one, we trade for Myles Garrett. Get a bunch of bargain bin sort of free agents. I'm fine with Carlton Davis. So that one cornerback from the Detroit Lions, he's a pending free agent as well. I think that he'll probably be reasonably like whatever. Then in the draft with our first, second round pick, obviously assuming that we have Myles Garrett, I would love to go with a wide receiver by the name of Jalen Royals. He is so dude runs a 4.4. He's fast as hell. Watch highlights of Jalen Royals on YouTube. Utah State, absolute animal. I think that he would fit this offense perfectly because that was one of the few weaknesses we had on this team was the inability of being able to have that speed threat on the outside with solid hands. And I genuinely believe that Royals would do so much for this team. We could even find him right in the third round. Also, so want a defensive tackle right in the interior, a big body guy, and then a free safety as well, who I really like, Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma. He's one of the few free safeties I've seen, especially at the Senior Bowl. But quite a bit, quite a bit to discuss. Quite a bit to discuss. Shout out to everybody in here showing me love right now. 278 of you in here, 176 of you on YouTube, 102 of you on X. Welcome into the show. They look for a team like the Bears in 2018, a solid defense with, at the time, a promising young rookie quarterback. Maybe Washington seems to fit the bill. So Washington is certainly in this conversation. They have the money, and I think that they're going to be able to knock it out. Scott comes in with a $10 donation. Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate that. Dan, I didn't know if you know this, but for draft picks, we had 2 seconds, 3 fourth rounds, a fifth round, and 3 sixth rounds. Altogether, we have 10 picks in the draft. He can do a lot with that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. We have compiled as much as humanly possible right in the mid rounds where Brandon Beane actually does very well. Hence why I'm not so much concerned about walking away with 2 first round picks and a second this year. I'm really not, because Beane is a genius when it comes into the middle rounds of the draft. Just go on ahead and send it over for that production that we automatically already need. John Marlowe saying Washington had more pieces. They would have took the Eagles to the wire. I agree. Could just be another Von Miller situation, play out with Myles, ID, rather get someone younger, to be honest. See, I'll raise you this, Dennis, right? Because I understand the sentiment here, right? What happened with Von Miller was a freak accident. When we ultimately ended up trading for him, he was the guy, went out with the Buffalo Bills and was dominating. Like, he was the Von Miller of old, and he tore his ACL, right? That's a risk that happens with each and every single player that you put out on the field. I could care less how old you are, right? But when you look at Myles Garrett, he wins in an entire different way that Von Miller does. Von Miller wins with burst, hence which is going to raise your propensity to get knee injuries. And Myles Garrett just wins off of pure power, right? Like a very similar edge rusher to Bruce Smith. Garrett is 29, where when we ended up getting Von Miller, he was 32. So massive difference right there, right? And me personally, I'm getting sick of rolling the dice on getting a younger edge rusher in that's not going to give guaranteed production. Like, we can go out, like maybe we could roll the dice on Josh Sweat, but he's no Myles Garrett. Like, yeah, he had a great Super Bowl performance, but he's no Myles Garrett. Maybe we can go on ahead and roll the dice again on multiple edge rushers. We did that a couple of years ago where, like, we ultimately ended up drafting 2 edge rushers within the first 3 rounds. One, Greg Rousseau, who has been good, but like he's no Myles Garrett again. And then Boogie Basham, who is completely not even on this team anymore. The draft is interesting because what you're doing is that you're rolling the dice, but as fans, we're expecting Myles Garrett level production, right? The only way to guarantee Myles Garrett level production, guarantee it, is to bring Myles Garrett on this team. I'm not sure about you, but I have seen so many different first and second round defensive players just not fit within this team. Several have already departed. Let's do it. A player like Myles Garrett makes the rest of the defense incredible. It really, really does. No disrespect to the Philadelphia Eagles secondary. Solid guys, right? Slay has played well. Same thing with rookie Cooper DeJean. Stud, right? But the pressure that Philadelphia was able to generate is the reason why that defense is good. That's why Patrick Mahomes struggled so tremendously, because his wide receivers didn't have time for their routes to mature. It's the exact same reason why Patrick Mahomes lost against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple of years ago. That secondary was decent, but the real reason why is because, like, when you have a true game changer on your line, that solves all of our issues on third down, right? like stopping third down conversions, is largely in the hands of your defensive line. So I get where you're coming from. It's fair, right? Because we don't want to have another Vaughn Miller sort of situation, but I don't know. That's my thought. That's my thought, at least. Bills need multiple players on the D line to get even close to what Philly did in the Super Bowl. Bills need to make this a priority. I feel like adding Myles Garrett, that opens up Ed Oliver tremendously. And it also opens up Gregory Rousseau tremendously. As long as you have a guy that's regularly doubled, like the rest of your defensive line eats, right? I do agree that we need a true one-tech defensive tackle because that would also help us out tremendously with stopping the run, which again was another issue that this Buffalo Bills team had last year. And then stopping third down conversions. Like most of the third down conversions we saw, it was so frustrating because I finally ended up unpacking a lot of the numbers. Did you know that during the vast majority of the third down conversions that we allowed this year in 2024, like it was something absurd how long the quarterback had to throw the football? I'm pretty sure last time I looked at it was like 3.2, 3.3 seconds. It was insane. I don't care how bad your defensive line is, but 3.3 seconds for a QB to throw the football, especially on third down, is atrocious. Of course he's going to convert it. Of course he's going to convert that. Like, dude could sit back there and make himself a sandwich and allow any one of his wide receivers' routes to mature. So I agree. I agree with you. Brantley is saying, "Hey, Dad, I'm glad to be back and to be able to hear your live streams. I was so angry when the Bills played Kansas City that I broke my phone by accident and had to go get a new one." Well, you know what, man? I'm glad that you're back with a new phone. It's a new season. What about Max Crosby? Sigma Boy, don't you worry about that. That's going to be the episode tomorrow morning. I'm going to be unpacking all of the Max Crosby contract details, what it would cost the Buffalo Bills if he is available, of course. So for anybody that wants to ride with me for the remainder of the offseason, have no fear. I'm going to be live twice a day. All right. So if you were watching the replay of this, highly recommend you subscribe and turn on bell notifications so you can also be a part of our live chat community in which that I have been speaking with all episode long. Now, folks, I did want to give you some good news here. Roundtable Sports just ended up releasing something for our boy real fast, man. How about some MVP merch, folks? How about some MVP merch, ladies and gentlemen? Look at that. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Look at that. Most valuable player merch, Josh Allen, JA17, has been released on the Roundtable Sports merchandise store. We have hoodies right now, and we also have t-shirts as well. We have different colors. We have black. We have Cardinal as well. We have sports gray. Ash is probably my personal favorite that we have. I have one in the mail right now. And then we also have just standard white. And the black is absolutely clean. I'm not going to lie to you. If, for example, that you want to cop yourself some of this MVP merch, folks, we just released it in the store. Of course, limited time. And then obviously we have our 5-time AFC East Championship t-shirt, which is there as well, with a bunch of other stuff that we could take a look at for you guys here. So do me a favor. Go on ahead, check out Roundtable Sports and some of our merchandise, sick stuff that we're going to be putting out for you guys on a regular basis. John Marlowe, Rousseau thrived in Miami with interior pressures to the quarterback. Imagine a giant like him forcing you to roll out. Thrived in Miami with interior pressures to the quarterback. I mean, dude, it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. I get the Fanatics one. Knock it out, baby. I do not understand why we cannot win in the playoffs. So, John, I'm going to tell you what, man. It's definitely a tough pill to swallow. But something that I always like to remind myself is that there are 31 losers each and every single year, right? Like there is only one team that can truly finish the job. And quite frankly, it's only been like 3 teams within the past 8 or 9 years. It's been the Chiefs, it's been the Eagles, and it's been the Rams. That's it, right? If winning a Super Bowl is obviously what we want to do, it's tough in this league, right? It's tough. I can tell you that as far as being a Bills fan, it does get frustrating because we obviously won our first like Super Bowl, right? But I feel like we're in a way better position than a lot of teams out there, right? Like we are regularly the champs of the division. So we always end up making the playoffs, have made it to the AFC Championship twice. We have had a lot of continuity and a lot of continued success. And we've had different issues that have held us back year in after year out. And I also want to remind everybody that we were supposed to be a rebuilding team this year. How many people, including Bills Mafia themselves, thought that we were going to win maybe 9 to 10 games, maybe get into the playoffs? Like we put out the most successful offensive production we have ever put out in franchise history. Yes, we have some things we need to fix up. Obviously, pass rush is number one, some defensive pieces, maybe a wide receiver that can stretch the field vertically. I feel like we're close, man. Very, very close. Very, very close. And it's not so much coaching. Right in the past, it's been coaching for me. That's for damn sure. But this year, this offseason, I genuinely believe that we are just an edge rusher away. We are an edge rusher away. hmm Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, baby. Fingers crossed. Me. He admitted it. So we can't win because it's the NFL decision, National Fix League. Bill, man, Bill. He's like that damn rigged NFL, man. Bills versus 49ers, Super Bowl 60. Quick jellyfish is coming in. I appreciate that. Myles Garrett is going to Washington. I could certainly see them being in contention. That's for sure. It matters that our first round picks aren't high. I feel so the other worst teams will have better chance at Myles because their first round picks are actually decent. But here's the deal, Blake, right? He has a no trade clause and he has made it clear that he wants to go for a contender. So Myles Garrett can block whatever trade request that comes in. So if the Patriots ask for him, he could be like, nah. Or say, for example, like the Jags ask for him, nah. All of the shitty teams don't have a shot, especially if what he has been telling us is true, that he wants to play for a contender. Because he gets to dictate where he's traded with that no trade clause. So that's where we're at. I don't think you've seen my last message, but what are your thoughts on us being able to get Amari back for another season? I don't think that he's going to come back. He's a pending free agent and he has been traded his entire career. He has never hit free agency once. And I think he's going to go out there and try to secure a bag for himself. I think that we'll kick the tires and we'll offer him a contract, but I don't think we'll be the highest bidder. So I don't anticipate that Amari Cooper will be back on the Buffalo Bills next year, but that's completely fine, right? As long as we go on ahead and we address a speedy guy right on the outside. And let's be honest with ourselves. Like this team is just anticipating James Cook to take yet another step in the right direction. So that's kind of where I am at. Buffalo needs to go for Myles because his offense has proven to be very potent with almost any type of player. They don't even have to be elite. And the main issue is we don't have a Josh Allen at defense. And a Myles Garrett would 1,010% be a Josh Allen in defense. I like Garrett, but Crosby looks more of a fit. Corey, I'll tell you what, man, you were in luck because the episode tomorrow morning is what would a Max Crosby trade look like for the Buffalo Bills. So stick around and make sure you have those post notifications on so you don't miss out. The offense made history for having 30 passing touchdowns and 30 rushing touchdowns. So offense isn't a major need. They have to go all in on defense this offseason. I agree. Dan, TikTok or YouTube for lives. I am an aspiring pop musician. Both, man. Both, bro. Both. If like you were looking for, so if you're looking for, so the best algorithm, I'd probably go TikTok. But say, for example, like you just want to put your content out on each and every single platform, I highly recommend that you do so. Like all of my content is on every single social media platform, right? Because like you want to build an audience and your potential audience is not confined to one specific platform. So I recommend littering content as much as humanly possible and repurpose it as well, right? Like say, for example, you film 5 TikTok videos a day, which is typically what I try to do. Take that exact same video and put it on YouTube, throw it on X, Same thing with IG. Same thing with whatever. Your goal, especially first starting off, is posting as much as humanly possible and reposting it on every single social media platform. That's what you need to be looking for. Lancelot, my guy coming in. Every time I see Garrett, I just get flashbacks of him swinging that helmet. Me too. I want that passion. Most definitely. What about a wide receiver in the draft? I do like one guy named Jalen Royals. He's probably going to be around the 3rd round pick. He's really fast, like 4.4, a 4.4, 4.3, 40, which is what we need. Because this Buffalo Bills team, we didn't have a wide receiver that could win vertically. And this Buffalo Bills team was top 5 in attempts downfield. And we just didn't have that wide receiver that had that sort of chemistry with Josh Allen this year. So I do like some speedsters in the 3rd round, but have no fear. We're going to be looking through it quite a bit. We'll watch that one, brother. Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. I watch you over every one of them. LOL. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. Dan, pound the table with me for Rashid Shaheed from the Saints. Saints are financially in a crunch. We, the picks, are to get it done. I believe he is set for $5 million contract this year. He is a restricted free agent. Rashid Shaheed, bro. All right. Hey, man, listen, I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to be putting out a huge series. So the next couple of weeks, guys, all of my morning streams are going to be looking at crazy free agents or guys that could potentially be traded to the Buffalo Bills each and every single episode. So do me a favor, obviously litter the comment section once this is all done so I can add players to my list. Like I said, tomorrow I'm doing Max Crosby. Thursday I'll do Trey Hendrickson. Friday I'll probably pick somebody else for a specific free agent. So just like litter my timeline, litter my comment section with players you would like me to go over, because there are a lot of free agents that we need to discuss and see whether or not that we would bring them in. And Hurts has the best offensive line: Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. Bring it in. If the Bills get either Garrett or Crosby, we need to get another defensive tackle, linebacker, both a free safety and strong safety. Grab a corner too. Wide receiver is a safe pick. So I definitely agree on a defensive tackle. Certainly agree on a free safety for sure. Strong safety, I feel like we're okay because Rapp's coming back and we have Cole Bishop, who's right behind him, who I thought was playing well with his later opportunities. But a free safety, absolutely. Somebody that's a dog in coverage, like we need that for sure. Linebacker is interesting, but like we run a lot of nickel, right? And a lot of people are just like, oh, damn, like we should just like dominate 4-3. That would mean that we would need to completely phase out Taron Johnson from this defense, who is one of our best players. And I don't think Taron Johnson's very effective on the outside. So I think that's kind of what the Buffalo Bills' defensive identity is going to be. I wouldn't spend a early round pick on a linebacker, but I'd be fine to kick the tires in like the 4th or the 5th round after the fact. Maybe a bargain bin sort of player. But so far, love Milano, love Bernard. We'll see what's happening there. You guys are getting mad. Must suck being Pat's little bro like Jackson Mahomes. Montez Sweat is a free agent, isn't he? I'm going to have to look at the full list. Johnny, well, hey guys, none of that. Craig, none of that, bro. Touch grass. Get Luca, he's 6'7". Bring him in. Jarvis, hi, brother Dan, you are awesome. Jarvis, not as awesome as you, man. 5 straight AFC East champs were not anyone's a little brother. I bet Keon Coleman will be one of the top receivers in the league. Hopefully. Go Bills from Kansas. There he is. We have Johnny. Lamar should have won MVP. You're right, Craig, if that's what you mean. Yeah, Craig, don't be saying anything like that, bro. That's not bad. But so Lamar definitely did not deserve it, though, fool, because he doesn't have it. It's Josh Allen. But Craig, be better, please. Spicy Dano, what's our salary cap this year? Who can we dump and free up some money? Don't worry about that, baby. We're going to be going on ahead and unpacking our salary cap here soon. Maybe Friday, what I'll do is I'll take a deep dive right into our salary cap and talk about free agents that we can get rid of, and then ultimately sort of help us dive into like what sort of cuts that we can do. Changes. Sweat is a free agent. All right, well then we're going to have to take a look at him too. Let's get Luca. Wow. Bills 2025 home schedule is brutal. Thank God we were undefeated at home last year. And Josh should have won MVP last year. Buffalo should be able to get 2 good players. Oh, yeah, more than that. Could Myles Garrett go to the 49ers? It just really all depends on what he wants to do, right? It just really depends on what he wants to do, because he does ultimately end up he has a no trade clause. So it's him structuring all of that. Could Myles Garrett go to the 49ers, Robert? After the ass kicking Kansas City got from the Eagles, Mahomes needs to get tips from his daddy, Brady. It's getting emotional in here, Dan. It really, really is. It really, really is. I'm gonna have to start blocking people if people like keep throwing like, some of the personal attacks in here, because that's like not what we're about. So I'm fine. So I'm fine with football trash talk, but like anytime anybody like makes it personal to somebody else in the chat, like I'm gonna have to do a zero tolerance. Like I'd say it's yeah. I'd say it would be implemented almost immediately. Um Johnny is saying go Lakers. Jordan Smith, Allen won the MVP because he deserves it. Now, Myles Garrett says he doesn't mind the snow. Look at that. So I know Von Miller took a pay cut, and so I think we're in good shape cap-wise. We are, and there's rumors that he might take another one. Micah Hyde is staying down here in Dallas. Look at that. I think it would be cool for Myles to come to Buffalo. I'm sure he is friends with Cooper. Bro, getting Garrett does nothing for the football team. This defense needs a complete overhaul on defensive line, CB and wide receiver 1 and 12 million. I would have to respectfully disagree with you. A player like Myles Garrett makes your defense better, because what it does is that it cuts the time that a QB has to allow the other offense to mature, like routes to mature by itself. Our biggest issue was stopping third down conversions last year, right? And the one position group that you look at in order to stop third downs is a defensive line. And largely, it's just that one player. Like, you insert Myles Garrett right on this defensive line, that automatically draws doubles on his side, and that allows Ed Oliver to eat, and that allows same thing with Rousseau, and that also allows a lot of really cool blitz packages. Our goal is to limit the amount of time per snap that the QB has to throw the football. I love Christian Benford. He's the second best CB in the league when it comes into DVOA and stopping separation. We could very easily bring in like a Carlton Davis as CB2. There are quite a bit of good free safeties in the drafts. I do agree that we can go for a wide receiver in the 3rd or the 4th round. I love Jalen Royals. But honestly, like, we're looking at an offense that had the most productive year in Bills franchise history. So offense really isn't much of an issue to me. Maybe outside of adding a bells and whistles sort of player at the end. But so when I tell you that we are literally just a game wrecker on the defensive line, just one, yeah, I'm not lying to you, bro. It's just one. It's just one guy. And then everything else figures itself out. Yeah. That's what I'm doing. Especially if this defense and secondary can continue their overall thought process and their identity of taking the football away. If we can continue to like climb up and take the football away as effectively as we did last year, and we have a Myles Garrett for pass rush, yeah, baby, we good. We good. We had Myles Garrett right to this team. Largely all of our defensive issues are fixed. And to be completely honest with you, if we bring Jordan Phillips back, it won't cost too much. He could be a guy we could bring back. I only mention it because I thought the Cowboys were only keeping Parsons for a year, and I even thought that they didn't want to pay Parsons anymore, which is why I mentioned him potentially leaving. I don't believe that they're going to allow him to walk. Bills scored the most points in the league last year. We did. We did score the most. Trevor Barr, is there a way we could swing Myles Garrett, then get it done, Bean? It's going to be interesting offseason. Definitely looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. You and I both, Trevor. You and I both. But we did just establish that he is only guaranteed $1.2 million this year and $1.3 million the following year. So we would need to give him an entire new contract, make him the highest paid edge rusher in the NFL, but we would just need to give him a massive signing bonus so we can equally distribute it out based off of the life cycle of his contract. It can be done financially. It really can. And then as long as we're okay with walking away with 2 first-round picks, which I am, I'm sorry, I'm walking away with 2 first-round picks, no questions asked, then that's kind of, my thought here. If we get Myles, the Super Bowl next year is basically confirmed. I hope so. Get Jameis Winston to back up JA17. Sign me up. Sign me up, bro. Holland is one of the best safeties in the game. There are a lot of good safeties in this draft, right? Like, so I love Xavier Watts, but would I spend a second round or a first round on him? Probably not. So is the team mascot DeMar done in bio? Nicholas is coming on in. Maybe we keep him for depth purposes, but he is a free agent. Bills already have Trubisky and Mike White right under contract for 2025, so we're not signing any other quarterbacks. Who knows? Who knows? What are your thoughts on Max versus Myles? Myles Garrett is a hell of a lot cheaper as far as a contract is concerned, and he's better. He's slightly better. But have no fear, Jon Snow, because tomorrow's episode is going to be about Max Crosby and what a trade could potentially look like there, how much we would have to owe him, a different contract restructure. So super excited, super excited. But all right, folks, that's going to have to do it for today's edition of the Dom Mafia Report. I'm going to be live a little later this afternoon. I'm still sort of grasping what topic I'm going to go after today. Maybe I'll do Max Crosby, or maybe I'll do some other topic, depending, of course, on what happens in Buffalo Bills news today. Do me a favor, smash that like button. Like I said, 343 of you currently watching, 177 on YouTube, 165 on X. Smash that like button. Also consider subscribing. If you already are subscribed, just do me a favor and hit those bell notifications, because I know a lot of you are watching the replay of this episode. If you ever want to be a part of my live chat community, in which you saw me interacting with earlier today, just go on ahead and just hit that bell notification so you don't miss a damn episode. Also, go on ahead and definitely check out our Josh Allen MVP merchandise that we just ended up dropping, pinned at the top of this live chat right here, folks. And a giant shout out right over to BetUS, guys, matching 150% of your first deposit all the way up to $2,000, 125% of your second and your third, as long as you use code YouTube150. Love each and every single one of you. I will see you later this afternoon. And before I let you go, you better always remember, let's go, Buffalo.